All right, how you doing? Um, it's been a week, a week, well, a week and a day, I think, since I had a heart attack, and I don't know. I I've been debating whether or not to even make this video, but I decided to go ahead and do it. So, you know, I'm basically going to go over the heart attack, tell you what it was like, and everything, and kind of give you kind of a progress report of everything. Um, Not the normal kind of video for this channel, but you know, it's a heart attack, and a lot of people out there have experienced it, and everybody seems to have kind of a similar outcome, or I don't know. There's a lot of similarities in their experiences, but not, from what I understand, they're not all the same. You know, so I'm going to kind of go over my little experience here, and we're just going to do kind of a heart attack video, I guess. My experience, you know, and I'll bring you up to date where things currently stand. All right. So basically, I mean, it was a day like any other day, a work day, we all go to work. So I was at work. We worked all day. In fact, it was the whole week leading up to this was kind of a rough week. I worked on the weekend. I got called in, and I forget what time it was. It was like 4 o'clock in the morning. I got called in on I think it was Saturday into Sunday or something like that. Or was it Friday into Saturday? I can't remember which one it was. Well, I got called in. It was really early in the morning to repair a hydrant that got ripped out by a car. And it blew up the main up the street, broke a valve. So it was a pretty, it was a big project to do that day. And then that Monday, we were working with a contractor because, well, I work for the water company. So the reason I got called in that weekend was because a car hit a hydrant and ripped it out of the ground, like the whole freaking thing. And that Monday, we were working with a contractor who's boring a tunnel, or drilling, I should say. They were drilling a hole or a tunnel under the road. And then once they got through, we could drag a new water line, pull it back through with the drill, back under the road. It's one of those roads that you don't want to just dig a trench across. You're better off to drill it. Well, after they got it pulled through, basically I had to wait all day for them to do that, and they didn't finish that till like 7:30 in the evening. And then came my job where I had to tie all this into the existing water system. So that was a late day. It was like midnight that Monday till I got home. And of course, I went back to work on Tuesday, and we had another late day there. Wednesday was another late day. It was like 7 or 8 o'clock. Several of these late days, a lot of hours right in a row. So, it did run me down a little bit, but it's nothing I haven't experienced before. I've been through this before many, many times. Um, so Thursday is the day of the heart attack. So Thursday was an easy day. Just they bored or drilled a tunnel under the road. So these are separate spots down the road, I should say. So up here we needed to drill a spot under the road, and here we needed to drill a spot under the road. Okay, so there's two different locations. So on Thursday, they already had it. So Wednesday we got it drilled and under on the second location. And whenever they do this, the pipe basically comes through and it comes up out of the ground and sticks up in the air, and you have to dig down, and all that pipe that's sticking up in the air, you have to dig it down and trench and get it to where she goes, under the dirt. And that's what we did. And we hit a customer service line that we didn't know existed, and ripped some stuff apart while we were digging. So kind of made the day a pain in the butt. But we were at the end of the day. We were minutes away from backfilling and covering up with everything up with dirt and everything. And I just started feeling, it It felt like indigestion. Well, it kind of reminded me of indigestion. It was different. It was different than indigestion. I should say that it was different, but it's very similar to indigestion. The pain was right here, dead center of the chest. That's where it started out. But then shortly after that, I started getting some pain in my arms, especially at my elbows. It was enough that I was like, wow, I'm starting, I don't know, I don't feel so hot. And I'd say the 5 minutes went by and it got a lot worse. And I'm working down in the hole, finishing up a thing with another fella. And I looked at him and was like, man, I don't feel freaking good. So I ended up crawling out of the hole and basically left him there to finish it by himself. And I went up to the truck and I actually grabbed some ibuprofen. I carry ibuprofen in the truck. I don't carry aspirin, which I should start doing that now. But I had some ibuprofen in the truck and I took 2 of those. But it was like every second the pain just doubled. Or even every 60 seconds, the pain that I was experiencing just doubled and it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. So I'd say from the time I started feeling the pain to the time I took the ibuprofen was probably 5 minutes. Yeah, my best guess, probably around 5 minutes. And at that time, the whole crew was like looking at me like, what's going on here? And I was like, man, I freaking feel awful. Like my freaking chest is hurting, like really, really super bad indigestion. My freaking arms are freaking killing me. Like it just hurt so bad. And the boss is looking down at the other guy working. And he kind of looked at me and he's like, you're not having a freaking heart attack, are you? And I'm like, I hope not. You know what I mean? But I kind of, we have like this tag along air compressor thing. If you guys are familiar with jackhammers and the air compressor tag along units, that I had one of those hooked up to the truck. And I kind of leaned up against it and I was just kind of standing there, but it's not like I was standing there relaxing like this. Like I was standing there like, oh, you know what I mean? Because it was freaking hurting. And one of the guys on the crew does like volunteer fire or something along those lines. And he's looking at the boss and he's like, dude, you better take him or call because this isn't right. And I could just see from the other guys' faces looking at me like they were like, whoa, what's going on here? You know what I mean? But I guess he was calling 911 when I looked at him. I said, just take me. We'll get there faster. Because we were, I don't know, 2 minute drive, 3 minute drive from that town's local hospital. So we jumped in his truck and took off for the hospital. And at some point along this adventure, I lost my hat. This is not the hat you're used to seeing. This is a different one. I bought 2 of these, and this is number 2. The first one, during this adventure, got lost. No idea where it went. Probably at the hospital somewhere. But I can remember crawling in the boss's truck, and I remember going down the road, and it's not like he has emergency lights or anything. All we got are like those yellow, amber lights that flash. He just left them on all the way to the hospital. But of course, people don't pay attention to those lights, you know. And I could just remember sitting in the seat of him yelling at the cars in front of us, "Get out of my freaking way!" You know what I mean? As we're going to the hospital, he just kept doing stuff like that. And you know, we went into the hospital, and I got out of his truck. I ran right straight into the emergency room door, straight to the counter, and I just looked there and it's like, I am having some extreme chest pains. It's in my arms, and this is bad. Like this is bad, bad. And they ran and got a wheelchair. I sat in the wheelchair, and it took them probably 30 seconds or so to start getting me, moving and through the doors and stuff. And at the same time, they're kind of like asking me questions. What's your name? What's your birth date? All that stuff. And the name and birth date, they asked me every 2 minutes. So I'd say every 2 minutes, somebody was asking me what my name and their birth date was. But they just kept asking me that question. But they did get into like other things as well. And I can remember them wheeling me in And I can remember looking up at the boss and being like, dude, I'm about freaking ready to start crying here. This is hurting. Like, this is hurting extremely bad. And by the time they had me starting to push through the emergency room doors, the tears were starting. Like, this, we're at a 10, we're at right at the limit of what I could possibly stand in pain, and maybe even just a touch beyond that. Because it was that bad that I felt like my head was going to explode. Like, the amount of pain was so intense. Uh, but they got me through the doors, got me into a bed, and slapped in what equipment they had. Now, this is a small hospital. They are not equipped for this sort of thing. They don't have the latest and greatest technology. Very basic equipment. They used what they could, and they could tell something was up. They couldn't tell exactly, but they could tell something was up. I remember them throwing a blood pressure monitor thingy on, and they had to use that thing and have it squeeze on my arm so hard that my entire arm turned blue during this. I can remember that because it hurt like, let's just say it hurt a lot. It squeezed on my arm so much to turn my entire arm from my bicep all the way down blue. I have no idea what the blood pressure reading was. I have no idea any of that stuff. And during all this, they're hooking me up with the wires. What's your name and birth date? Putting the blood pressure thingy on. What's your name and birth date? You know, it was constant. What's your name and birth date? I don't know the reason of that. I'm guessing just to make sure I'm still upstairs. You know what I mean? I can still process stuff. And at one point, they started saying, well, what's the last 4 digits of your social security? They pop that one in there every now and again as well. I'm guessing they're just wanting to make sure, things are still going on up there. But during this process, there's, a nurse. I don't know her name. Don't know what, I couldn't tell you what any of them looked like. I just know she was older, probably early 60s, and she's the one who talked to me. So, she was the one. No idea of her name. Nothing. I don't know. But she's the one. She's the one who talked. And you know what I'm talking about. But she gave me a lot of encouragement. She basically, she's like, you know what's going on here. And trust me, like I've seen a lot of patients, and you're the kind that pulls through it. She's like, I've seen this happen a lot, and you can like she's had a lot of experience with it, and she's like, sometimes I have to tell the person, just prepare yourself because this might be it. And she's like, I'm just looking at you and I'm telling you, I don't think this is it. I think you're going to be pulled through this completely fine. And she just kept talking to me, being supportive. But, during this process, hooking up the wires, doing all these tests, they hooked me up with the patches to put the paddles on. Like, as soon as they got done putting all the wires on me, the next thing that went on were the patches for the paddles. And luckily, they didn't have to use those. But, yeah, I was paddled up, ready for that. And it's hard to remember. They gave me a nitroglycerin. I do remember that. They gave me a dose of nitroglycerin. They had me put it under my tongue. And it's one of those things that dissolves under your tongue. They said, I'm going to warn you, this is going to give you a headache. And it did. It gave me a bit of a headache. And that helped. So at that moment that I could feel it start to dissolve under my tongue, it was almost instantly I could start feeling the pain kind of reduce. It reduced, but it didn't go away. The problem is, like, within, I don't even think it lasted 5 minutes, maybe 2 or 3 minutes. The attack just like started all over again, but this time it was like an overdrive. It's like it knew we were fighting, and it's like, no, I'm coming back even stronger this time. It was kind of like one of those things. And this next pounding, or whatever you want to call the next attack, or it shouldn't even say the next attack. It's like the pain goes like this, really high, and then it goes down. Then it goes up really high and it goes down. And the nitroglycerin took me from a high to a low. But it only lasted a couple of minutes and then it took me to another high. But the problem was the high was twice as high. That was the one that I was like, you know what I mean? I'm just like, I'm gritting my freaking, like I felt like everything was about to explode. Most painful thing I've ever experienced in my life, hands down. Chop my arm off, it wouldn't hurt as much. You know what I mean? Yeah, that was bad right there, that moment. They gave me another dose of nitroglycerin at that moment, put it under my tongue, and that's when things started turning around. The pain went from that extreme and it dropped, and it really dropped that time. Like to the point where I started almost feeling completely fine. And it happened quickly. Within 5 minutes, the pain went from like way up here to way down, you know? So, at that moment, I'm just like, you know, I mean, taking a breath. I can breathe because the pain was so bad I couldn't breathe. Like I just grinning it, like with everything I had. It did. It took everything. My teeth, you know, I just like, I couldn't talk. That's the moment that like I lost the ability to really talk because it just hurt so bad. I was trying to grunt through it. You know what I mean? They did keep asking me my name and birth date through all this process, and I was able to answer. But boy, was it a struggle. I'll tell you what. So once it came down and it started to kind of get down here and kind of all that, yeah, everything started to release and kind of I started to feel a little better. That's when the doctor came in and he started explaining to me. So remember, this is a small hospital. They are not equipped for this at all. That's when he told me, it looks like you're having a heart attack and we have transport coming for you right now. We're going to transport you to another hospital, which the other hospital is out of the town in which I work. So, you know, my truck is located like a mile or two from that hospital. Is where my pickup truck's parked. It's a very well-known hospital in this area of Pennsylvania. It's like the biggest hospital. The doctor they set me up with, who is considered to be one of the best heart doctors in the country, works out of this hospital, and that's my doctor. And I will tell you, he is as blunt, rude, you can imagine. Like, he is the most blunt and rude person you could ever imagine, and he is my doctor. No bedside manners whatsoever, nothing but blunt and rude, and I don't know how else to explain it. You know what I mean? If he has an opinion about what you're doing wrong, he's going to tell you, and he's not going to tell it to you nicely. You understand? He's going to tell it to you, and he's going to tell it to you very sternly. We'll put it that way. But back on to the transport, I got kind of strayed from that part of it. So he's telling me all this stuff. The doctor's telling me about how looks like I'm having a heart attack. They're going to transfer me to the other hospital. Now, you remember the nurse who was kind of talking to me through this. She got my phone out of my pants. I had them in my pants pocket, which my pants were completely covered in mud. Completely, every inch of me was covered in mud during this whole thing. So I'm like completely covered in mud during all this. But she got my phone out, and I told her who to call. She called my wife, and I told her my wife is going to run her. She's going to freak out. She's going to be doing like 100 mile an hour down the road, and I need you to tell her in a manner that she does not do that. So she did. She pulled it off. She got my wife there. In fact, she called my wife, and my wife notified everybody else or whatever, and, you know. But after all that, then the ambulance came. They were pretty swift about getting me loaded up. I had to go from the hospital bed to the ambulance, whatever, the wheeled thingy-majiggy. And they loaded me in the ambulance. And the funny thing is, one of the guy that I was telling you about who I work with, who's like a volunteer firefighter or AMED, I don't know, he's something, but he knows the people he knew the people who took me to the hospital. And in fact, when they took me to the hospital, they had to go past the guys that I was working with. So they got to hear the ambulance scream by with me in it. But anyway, they loaded me up and took me to the hospital. And it's kind of a different point of view. I've been in the back of the ambulance one other time. That was just a regular transport. And if you guys remember a little while back when in my eye, that was a 2-hour ride in an ambulance to a specialized hospital for who can treat eye damage or whatever. But that was just a regular ambulance ride. There was no lights or sirens. This time I got the full treatment. Lights, sirens, horn, all of it. And they did not let up for nothing. That horn, the woman who was driving did not lay off that horn for more than 3 seconds the entire trip. A drive that would normally take me 20 minutes, I swear we did it in 5. Like, we were hauling. My point of view from sitting in the back of the ambulance out the back window is like, you heard of like the parting of the Red Sea or whatever. It was almost like that because I could see how all the cars just parted the ways. You know what I mean? For the ambulance to come screaming by. So then as we drove by, I could see all the cars kind of getting back into the lanes and taking care of things. Definitely a new point of view for me. We went through some red lights that I was like, shouldn't we stop at a red light? You know what I mean? But she knew what she was doing. You know what I mean? So, not much more for the ambulance ride. The other person who was sitting in the back with me, I couldn't tell you either one of their names. I know they were both girls. And the one girl was driving, and the other girl in the back with me, I remember she was well tattooed. I do remember that. But we get to the hospital, and there was no waiting. I went through the emergency room door, and they wheeled me straight up to the room to have the procedure done. So, from the time of the start of the heart attack to the time I was getting the procedure done to fix all this, I don't know if it took an hour. If it did, not much more, an hour and a half. So from the start of the heart attack to the hospital, the ambulance ride, to the second hospital, to the room they gave me a stent is what happened. I mean, all of this is like an hour and a half process. So, yeah, I mean, they wheeled me straight in, got me on another table for the stent procedure. I can remember her taking this arm because the stent went in here. I can remember that lady taking my arm and pretty much duct taping it to the table where I couldn't move it at all. And yeah, there was no pain medication during the stent process. I don't know if that's normal or not. There was 0. And I mean, I'm still basically having all the heart attack pains. They just aren't as bad. Okay, so I'm not like, you know what I mean? But it's still there. It's still there in full force. Like, I can still feel it. It's just not at, a million miles an hour. It's calmed down to where I can bear it, but it's still there. You know what I mean? So they go ahead and they start the process for doing the stent. And I guess while he was in there, he was poking around and looking at other arteries, seeing how bad the blockages were throughout the heart, all that stuff. And he needed to place one stent. That artery, I don't remember, but I think it was a 98% blockage. The other ones are like 30, 40%. So I didn't get in stents in those arteries. Said they're going to treat that with medication. So from there, that procedure sucked. It hurt. It hurt really bad. Like an extreme burning sensation in the chest. Like extreme, like a hot poker going through my chest. You know what I mean? Kind of like one of those sensations. And the hard part was that I had to sit there calmly. I couldn't take big, deep breaths. I had to be nice and calm through the whole procedure. It just to make his life easier. The doctor, the one doing the stent. So I did my best, and it sucked. I'm telling you, because I was hurting. Like, I was hurting so bad. Man, not just from getting the stent done. I was in heart attack mode. You know what I mean? But that procedure might have taken 20 minutes, and we were in and out and headed to a regular room. And at that point, once we got rolling out after the stent, I felt fine. I mean, I was sore and tender. I'm still sore and tender here. I can still, I still got some tenderness in here. It's been a week now, and you know, yeah, still tender. Um, but I went to a room, and that's whenever they were giving me the pain medication and stuff to help take care of things. I had a headache. The pain medication wasn't the strongest, but it was enough to make me feel really happy. So I guess I was extra happy after all of this happened. My wife said I was bubbly. I'm not a bubbly person, but she said I was super bubbly. But my wife met me at the hospital. My oldest stepdaughter met me at the hospital, and my sister met me at the hospital. And they all paid a visit for a little bit when I went into the room. And by that time, I was feeling fine. But it happened fast. From the start through the procedure and everything, it was really, really fast, at least in my opinion. There was no waiting. It was moving from one step to the other. I mean, when we got to the hospital, had that stent procedure done, they were already in the room waiting for me. Oh, they were working overtime to work on me. You know what I mean? So, I mean, it was fast. They were there, ready, waiting. They were probably got the call before we even left the other hospital to go to see them and everything, and they were able to get ready. But yeah, that's kind of that experience. And in the process, I don't know where, but that hat went missing, and this is the second one. And I actually had one or two people ask me about this hat, because I said I was planning on selling hats, and this will not be the hat that I sell. I wanted to get these as like a trial run because I don't want to sell something that's, I don't like myself, and I'm not crazy about this hat. I didn't realize it at the time, but the hat is made of wool, and that embroidery on the top sucks because the little knots they do in that embroidery work poke you in the head, and it's not the most comfortable. So yeah, those are you were asking. But yeah, back onto the subject of the heart attack. We are a week out, and this is going to be kind of the post side of the heart attack, where we're at right now. So, during all of this, they discovered that my blood pressure is really, 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 really high. So my normal blood pressure is like my normal. This is me any day, just normal me. My blood pressure is pushing the limits of what they would consider you should be going to your doctor right now. Me on a high blood pressure day is probably like, yeah, why aren't you in a hospital? You know what I mean? Like a stressful day. So my blood pressure is extremely high. So what the doctor is doing is I am taking my blood pressure myself multiple times a day. I have medication that if my blood pressure hits a certain number, I have to take the medication. If it's below that certain number, I do not take that medication. And then I have about 10 other medications that I am taking to control blood pressure, blood thinners, there's special stuff because of the stent, all that stuff. So I probably got about 10 new medications that I'm taking every single day. And the one that I did discover that as time goes on, the one medication I have to take as needed is happening less and less and less. So I think the other ones are starting to control it better, where that one is, I'm gonna have to take it less. But I don't, it's not, the problem is my blood pressure is still not back down to where it's supposed to be. So I'm expecting the doctor to make some changes. So I am checking my blood pressure mode multiple times a day. I'm keeping a note of it in my phone, and I have to send it to them. Well, they said Monday, but probably going to be Tuesday because Monday's, holiday. So, yeah. But that's kind of where we're at right now, is blood pressure control. Now, the blood pressure medicine is really makes me feel awful. I am so used to running on a very high blood pressure that as my blood pressure reaches normal levels, it makes me feel downright like garbage. Headache. Um, like if you guys have ever had a medication that kind of gives you the headache, it's kind of like a different kind of a headache than your normal everyday headache. You'd probably know what I'm talking about. It's very similar, it's still a headache, but the post medication kind of headache, it's different. And that's what this blood pressure medicine is doing to me on days that it gets low enough that it's like normal. I guess normal is like 120/80. And mine, when mine is low, when it's lowest, it's at like 135/90. And I will be honest, my blood pressure has been seen at 210 plus. And that 210 number is way too high. So that's what we're trying to get down. And as of lately, it's been hovering in the 150, 160 range. So if it's above 160, I got to take that medication to help drop it down even further. And that one really does a number to me. That's the one that makes me feel really, you know what I mean? And it's whenever my blood pressure gets down in the 130s, that's whenever I feel awful. But that's still even close to normal level. And it makes me feel awful. The doctor told me to expect that. He said that's going to be completely normal for you. You're just completely expected, and it's going to take a long time for you to get used to a normal blood pressure reading. He said, my body is so used to having a really high blood pressure that it's going to take some time to get used to a normal blood pressure reading. So that's kind of what I'm doing right now, is getting used to that. And I'm not used to it. Not at all. If my blood pressure is in like the 150 range, I feel fine. It's whenever it gets down to like 130, 135 in there, that's whenever I start feeling rough. But yeah, there's a little bit about my heart attack, and completely brings you up to date on my medical stuff. I've released several videos. Some of that stuff I was never planning on releasing, and I released it. Some of that, some of my normal content or whatever. But I released a lot of that stuff. Some of it I had to fix up and try to make it somewhat salvageable so that I could release it. And it may not have been the best video, but for the past week, probably a week and a half till this one comes out. Yeah, probably a week and a half, or maybe even 2 weeks from the heart attack to when I put this video out. I think I still have 2 videos, maybe 1. I think I only have 1 video left. So 1 or 2 videos left until I'm going to put this one out. And that's going to kind of bring you up to current events right here. Because a lot of those videos were not, I wasn't planning on releasing them. I did, and so forth. So, I had to tidy them up a bit or whatever. But that's kind of where we're at. So from this video on, what is it? There's one video that I made a little while back after the heart attack. And so this video you're watching now is actually my second attempt at this video. And the first one, I didn't play it off serious enough. So I'm scratching that video and I'm putting this one out. The first one I kind of joked around and stuff, and I shouldn't have done that. So I scratched it, redid it this video, but in between, I made another video out working on the field or whatever, so you'll probably see that video. And that video was recorded a few days ago. I'm just going to flip-flop the order in which you see them. So, you know what I mean? Because that video is kind of like the day or 2 after the heart attack, and I'm talking about it. So you'll get to kind of see me a day or 2 after the heart attack and some stuff I was doing. And you know what I mean. So, yeah, there you go. A little bit about my heart attack and some things there, clear you up on some videos. But I actually do have a video I plan on making, a normal content video this weekend. And it's the only video that I have planned. So, I don't know. We might be dropping down to like a video a week. We just might be. We'll see. We'll see how things go. So, Maybe we'll do more, but don't expect more than one a week. I'd have to say that. So there's going to be a lot of stuff that happens that you don't get to see, just because um, yeah. But anyway, hey, I think we'll call it at that. This is going to be this is a 30 some odd minute video. This is going to exceed 30, probably 35 minutes or so. So, I mean, I'm at 35:22 right now. So, if I don't think I'm going to have to edit anything out of this video. So, I hope you watch it. I hope you watched it all. A little something about my experience with a heart attack. And I'll keep you updated as things go. This video should have brought you completely up to date with everything, all the details. And by the way, one thing I forgot to mention. Remember the gentleman I said I worked with that was like a volunteer or whatever? He knew the crew. And they told him that, because, they talk, outside of that or whatever, but they talk. And they said that the monitors, or that I was back there, I was able to talk to them normal, like a normal person and everything. But everything they were seeing on the computer screens or whatever was telling them to go very, very fast. So, how bad was it? I don't know, but I'm guessing it was pretty bad. So, yeah. All right. Catch you later.